Hey there, homesteaders. It's a beautiful morning here in the desert, and today we're going to head up to the forest to see if we can find some pine nuts.
And if we do find some, then I'm gonna do something with them in Brett's kitchen, and if not, we'll figure something else out.
Alright, so let's get in the car and get going. We're Kaliki and Brett, a rugged and adventurous gay couple who are sick and tired of clashing with life in the city.
So we decided to head into the desert to chase our dreams and thrive.
Along with our furry friends Chuck and Momo,
We'll explore DIY projects, tiny house construction, gardening, hiking, cooking,
and share what it looks like to jump headfirst into homesteading.
So subscribe and join us on our dusty adventures to build this desert dwelling.
So we've never actually gone and harvested pine nuts out in the wild before, but we are hoping that these mountains behind us are holding what we are looking for today.
I can't wait to get up in those trees and see what we can find.
We're gonna jump back in the car and start heading that way.
Yeah!
So we ended up driving to all sorts of random places and finally found a nice road to get ourselves up into the mountains. As you can see, we are way up high.
We went to a couple different places and there were pine trees, but none of them had nuts that were ready. It was either they had already opened and all the pine nuts were gone, or a lot of them just hadn't really made pine nuts, or the pine cones didn't really have pine nuts in them in a lot of places.
So the place we decided to stop on this road, we didn't make it all the way to the top, but we checked out a pine tree here and there were some little seeds inside. So we're gonna explore around and see what we can collect. It's so hard everywhere we go. There's just so many cool rocks. We always get distracted.
We've got this extension saw here with the saw blade taken off, just a little clipper on it. We're just using it to try and knock some of these pine nuts, or the pine cones, out of the tree up higher. So if we just get it up there and hook it, then we can knock the pine cone down.
Why aren't you supposed to eat pine nuts when they're not cooked?
They can give you diarrhea. I don't know what exactly it is in there, but they taste good raw. I like them.
How many do you think I could eat before it was bad?
I have no idea.
I ate 3.
To find out.
Spin in a circle like the sound of music. We found the good spots. We found it. You just gotta go the perfect amount up and the perfect amount down. This is pretty exciting. We've sort of hit our stride here, and we're finding that we're getting tons of them just off of the ground. We don't even have to mess around with trying to get the cones out of the tree, which I'm sure is better for the tree overall, just to have it happen naturally. So, perfect. I'm excited. We're going to keep collecting.
We filled up both of our bags with pine cones and then a few handfuls of just nuts that had fallen while we were trying to get the pine cones down.
Yeah, so we're pretty tired now. We think we got enough. We don't want to take more than our fair share. So I think we're going to head home. Well, our truck broke down. We're in the middle of the desert, so that's never fun. Not quite sure how we're gonna fix this one. We don't have any cell service out here, so weird situation. We'll figure it out though. Hope it's not too bad.
We're not gonna die, I guess, not right now anyway. We're getting a ride. I don't know what's gonna happen next. You never know. Nobody ever knows. I'm so scared. I'm so scared.
Well, it was a crazy desert dwelling type adventure, again, as usual. Our truck's still out in the desert. I am on my way out there to meet a tow truck driver so he can get our truck back into town, and hopefully we'll be able to get it fixed. We shall see. It's got over 200,000 miles on it, so it has done a lot of work in its time, and we have used it quite a bit already. So I decided to let Brett just stay home, have him work on some things around the house, maybe get started on the pine nuts. We'll see. But we will be processing those, roasting, peeling, and turning them into something delicious, because the ones that I was finding just on the ground that were in the sun were like sun roasted, and man, they were good. So we shall see. Alright. Well, I made it back to the truck. Just hanging out here waiting for AAA. Enjoying the beautiful scenery. It's nice and clear today. Not so much smoke. Well, it's definitely not rave reviews for AAA. I've been out here with the truck waiting for about 3 hours now, so I guess... Well, that was frustrating. This has been a journey beyond journeys. I never expected a little jaunt into the forest and collect some pine nuts would turn into this. It took the tow truck about 3.5 hours from the time I showed up at the truck, because they didn't trust the information I gave them and decided not to head that way. So 4.5 hours later, after leaving, we're finally heading back to town. I've been pissed, I've been happy, I thought it was funny, I think it's stupid, it's done, almost. Almost. I just can't wait for it to be over. There goes our truck. I hope it isn't old Sally's final ride. We shall see. She has served us well. Alright, well, hopefully we'll be cutting straight into the pine nuts from here, and if we can get back to the fun.
Oh, hi, Dolores. Come on in. So we've made it back home and starting to deal with the pine nuts now. I've got this jar of all the ones that had just fallen out and were loose. And here's all the pine cones that still have some of the pine nuts in them. You can see there, a lot of them have fallen out already, but there's still a bunch. So I'm going to take these pine nuts and put them in a bowl of water. The ones that float to the top, about 85% of those are not good. Maybe we'll just try planting all the ones that float to the top, and maybe 15% of those will sprout. Could be cool. Got my pine nuts here. I'm just going to dump them in this bowl of water and see what floats. Alright, so all of these ones should be good. I am gonna go ahead and just try planting all of these somewhere and see if any of them sprout, which would be super cool. And if not, no big deal. Maybe some little animal will come and find them. And these ones I am gonna try to peel now. One way that I've read of people getting the pine nuts out of the shell is by placing them in a towel in a single layer. Actually, I'll move it to one edge. Just start with a few. Maybe I'll fold it over so they don't come out. Let's try it like this. And they say to go over it with a rolling pin, or in this case, a bottle, and try to crack the shells. Let's see, I'm hearing some crunching. Well, it's kind of worked. I think it's still going to be quite a laborious process. Well, that's about a pine nut every 30 seconds. Not the most efficient way.
smacking them like this instead of rolling it. One of the things I read said if you do this on a towel, then the shells just stick to the towel and the nuts are just left there sitting so nicely. I have not found that to be the case. Two things about this. There's still some pine sap on these, so you're gonna get your fingers sticky. And also these thin little shells are just perfect for digging right up underneath your fingernails. So that's just some things to think about. Also, if anybody has experience peeling pine nuts, how do you do it? Anybody have any tips? Am I doing something wrong with this rolling pin method? Does it need to be actually a rolling pin and not a bottle? Maybe is there some different kind of towel that would work better to really hold those seeds? Or were people on the internet just lying to me? Alright, there we have it. I'm going to toast these up and I'm going to go and get some stuff from the high tunnel to make our pesto. While I head out there, I'm going to send you over to Kaliki to see how he's doing with those pine cones.
Brett is working on those pine nuts that had fallen out of the pine cones now over in the kitchen. And so I thought I would go ahead and just take the ones that were in the pine cones still and separate them all out. So this is what we ended up with from all the pine cones. We're gonna have to go through and do what he did, where he put them in water, and then the ones that were floating are likely not good. That came from this pot full of pine cones right here. So I think this is like a 2.5 gallon pot. So kind of crazy. It is a lot of work. I can see why pine nuts are so expensive. Not only was it kind of tedious getting out of there, but these pine cones are just covered in sap. So sticky. I think half of the process was just cleaning my hands. I was planning to film the process, but then once I started, my hands were instantly just so sticky, and I decided not to film it because I didn't want to get my phone all crazy. I also thought I would just kind of talk to you about the harvesting process. We'd never done it before, like we said, and we weren't sure what exactly to look for, but it turns out every tree with pine cones on it is probably going to have, you know, a few in there, but a few that are total duds, and some will have bugs, and it's just kind of really a mixed bag what you're going to get on each tree, so it takes a little searching when you're up there. We also realized you want to look for the ones that are kind of green and open a little bit, but not too much. If they're open too much, then they're likely empty at that point. So we definitely learned a lot. We also noticed you can't go too high in elevation, or there aren't that many trees, and if you're down too low in elevation, there's not going to be any pine nuts. We kind of suspect that the lower elevations have a little warmer temperatures, so the pine nuts fell out earlier than the ones higher up. It's been a really interesting process overall. It was really cool to do this for the first time. We're definitely going to be doing it again next year. It'll be cool to see our 2021 video about it. I'm sure we will be way better, way more prepared, and hopefully our truck won't break down. We just put them in water and floated to find the ones that weren't as good, and one of the things I noticed is, let's see, let's do this YouTube magic thing people do, see if it'll work on my phone. No. So one of the things that we noticed about the pine nuts that aren't good is they kind of look like this a lot of the time. They've got lighter coloration on them, they're a little speckled. So you're really looking for ones that are, this one actually floated too, but just one that's a nice darker color and more even. I'm going to go ahead and open it up. Yep, it floated. Looks like there was a bug in there. But not the kind of pine nut you're looking for. Let's see if any of these ones that have floated. Some of them looked like they were good on the inside, but then they weren't. Oh. Yeah, see this one again. Weird little pine nut. Not kind of thing you're looking for, but our chickens will love it. So this one you can see, even though it floated, it does look like a pretty decent pine nut on the inside. I think Brett mentioned it already, but we were gonna try to use them. But then when we went to taste them, they're just a really weird texture. They don't taste terrible or anything, but they're just kind of like hard and stale almost. That one actually wasn't bad. That's the first one I've had that floated that was pretty reasonable. Yeah, so this one also looks pretty reasonable inside. It was one of the speckled light colored ones, but I can tell already it's a little firmer, it's a little smaller. It snaps in half. The fresh ones won't snap in half. I haven't had one that dry yet. I actually kind of love it. It's almost like a peanut. Weird. So those ones actually aren't bad. It's kind of a toss-up. I don't know nutritionally if they're any different, but I like it. Yeah, see if this is another one. No, that's one of the ones that's kind of soft and stale. Oh, it tastes fine. It's just weird. It gets stuck in your teeth. Anyway, excited to see what Brett's doing with all of his nuts that he's working on. It's going to be way better than just these weird stale ones that I'm trying to eat.
Alright, now that Kaliki has those pine cones all sorted out, let's go out to the high tunnel and then get this pesto made.
Check out the size of that carrot. I'm going to leave that in the ground and let it flower next year, but in the meantime I'm going to pick a bunch of the greens off of it and use them to make a pesto. So initially I was going to make basil pesto, but as you can see my poor little neglected basil plant has started flowering, so there's not much basil left on it, and the leaves that it does have are super tiny. So that would not make very much pesto, but I am going to pick some of it and add it to the carrot tops. I would normally put some garlic in the pesto as well, but we don't have any right now, so I'm just going to pick some green onions and put it in there instead. Do kind of similar thing flavor-wise.
So I've got my pot of boiling water here. I'm just going to throw in these carrot tops and blanch them for about 15-20 seconds.
Now I'm just going to put them into a bowl of cold water to stop them from cooking anymore.
So I've got my skillet preheated, and I'm just going to toss in the pine nuts that I've shelled. I'm just going to cook these on a medium-low-ish heat, keeping them moving around constantly until they are lightly golden brown, and that shouldn't take too long, just a few minutes.
So I've got the blanched carrot tops, green onions, and a little bit of basil in my blender cup, and I'm going to add a little bit of extra virgin olive oil, probably 3 or 4 tablespoons.
Add a pinch of salt. I'm going to add a couple handfuls of these pine nuts. Here's the pesto all done. It's nice and thick, it smells fantastic. I can't wait for the pasta to be done so we can eat. Alright, this pasta is done cooking. I had thought about making some pasta from scratch, but after all of the ordeal of everything this week, we are using box pasta, and I don't feel bad about it. I'm just gonna garnish it with a few pine nuts, and we're ready to eat.
Well, this was a really intense week. I'm really glad that we were able to make a video happen. It's amazing the things you can do if you set your mind to it.
Dig in.
I'm super excited to try this carrot top pinyon pine nut pasta. It's so good.
If I do say so myself.
That little bit of basil really goes a long way.
Yeah.
It's mostly just carrot tops in there.
Yeah.
So much work, and our car may or may not work again. We don't know, but for now, we'll just enjoy the food. Well, thanks so much for watching. We really appreciate all of our followers sticking it out every week with us. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss the next episode of Desert Dwelling.
See you next Tuesday.